All right, what is up, guys? I'm finally getting back into the groove, making some video content. I know I kind of started and then dipped. It has been a crazy number of months. We are preparing to move from Columbus to Las Vegas. So there's a ton going on, as you can probably see from the background. Everything is scattered all over the place. My office currently is the kitchen island. So it is hectic, but we're super excited for it. On the lifting side of things, I just kind of wanted to make a video to cover everything top to bottom with where I'm at, what my plan is, what my goals are, and how I'm looking to achieve that. Everything surrounding that structure-wise, from PEDs to training, cardio, what I've been doing as a diet phase and going into our push-up phase. Yeah, kind of everything in that giant sphere of bodybuilding. So the first thing I want to start off with here is going to be a physique update. And I'm going to put that somewhere here on the screen. I'll do a before to show you what I looked like at the end of December, roughly. I was about 230 in that picture, pounds, not kilos, and pretty chunky. And we did 7 weeks of dieting to bring me down to where I am now, which is here. And I am currently sitting, I don't know what the body fat would be, but around 200 pounds. You guys might hear the geese outside. They're going nuts in the pond today. Sitting around 200 pounds. We had about a 30-pound weight loss coming back off the end of that push phase, which previously lasted about 24, 25 weeks. I switched my personal coach, and I'm super happy with my experience now. I am still offering my own coaching for those who are interested. Link is below for that. I'll put some icon or link or something wherever so that you can see that and check that out. I only take 20 clients per month, so the spots are limited, and they're limited so that I can make sure I give all of my clients all the attention they need whenever they need it. My overarching goal is to do my first competition, 220 pounds, stage lean. That is a significant amount of tissue we have to add. I would say probably 40, maybe even upwards of 50 pounds at this point of lean tissue to be at that point. So a very big jump from where I am now. Obviously, I say 40 or 50. You know, people hear I'm at 200 and they say, well, you could go to 220 and be on stage, and that's not really how it works. I'm lean right now, but not stage lean. So I would probably have to strip another 20 pounds to be stage ready, which would put me at 180. And to be at 220 on stage, 40 pounds. I'm giving myself an extra 10 pounds just to overestimate there. So we have our work cut out for us. But over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on how things go, we're going to try and build up to that. And that's where I'd like to be. I want to do my first competition as big as I can. I'm not one of those guys who wants to hop into like classic physique and then work my way up and do a show every year and then go into open. I don't want to do that. It takes too long. It's just like, I think when people are so focused on doing a show every year, they lose sight of achieving the goal they actually set out to achieve, which is, in this case, putting on as much size as I can to compete in open, which is the division rather, I actually want to compete in. So taking the time off, stepping out of the stage or off the stage, never stepped onto it in the first place, but making sure I don't rush that process, getting to where I need to be, and then hopping onto the stage. So, physique update aside, you know, everything feels very good. I feel phenomenal right now. I mean, the best I've ever felt, and my blood work supports that. Before actually attacking my blood work here, we're gonna start with, what does my PED stack design look like? And what are my doses and all that sort of stuff? And it's still, even in this day and age, kind of a taboo thing to talk about within bodybuilding and fitness in general. We all know it's there, but nobody really is honest about it, it feels like. That's changing. More people are. And I think that the people who are talking about it are pretty well educated on it for the most part. There's a lot of noise out there and a lot of people just pulling things off of like Reddit or some forum from 2004 that are just absolutely dog shit. So the short and sweet of it, I'll just, again, put my stack up here on the screen. Running through this stack, this is what I am currently on and have been on for the entirety of my pullback / diet / cruise phase. So yes, this is the lowest my doses go. Keep that in mind. This is the low end. Currently, 500 milligrams of test, 300 milligrams of mast. This is per week, not per day. 10 IU of growth hormone, that is per day. 500 milligrams of metformin, 80 milligrams of telmisartan, and 100 micrograms of T4. Previously had Clen, up to 80 micrograms of clenbuterol in. We're taking that out this week. This week is kind of a bridge week, going from diet to the push-up phase, and we're just pulling the Clen, bringing food up a little bit, kind of letting my body just reset its baseline, and then we're gonna move up. That's all I'm on right now. And I say all, but again, those are pretty high doses for what most people think of. I mean, most people, if you look online, they're like, 500 milligrams is a blast. That's a huge dose. It's not. And people need to be honest with what they're going to achieve if they decide to start PEDs at a dose like that. I think it's really harmful because something you see nowadays a lot is these guys who are 250, 300 pounds, monsters, and they're like, yeah, got here on 400 mgs of test. That's it. And it's like, dude, come on. And I don't know what the logic is behind that, behind saying that, because everybody knows it's not true. And I think they think it's going to act as some form of harm reduction because the people who watch them will then go and only do 400 instead of 2 grams. And they think that's going to save them some hardship. The reality is, I think the opposite is true, whereas people think, oh, only 400? That's all I need to take to look like him? Cool, I'm going to do that. And it lowers the barrier to entry. and it is detrimental even more so than just saying the real honest truth. Like, yeah, in a push phase where I'm putting on, as much mass as possible, I'll go up to like 1.5 grams of test and like 2.5 grams of mast, plus insulin, plus growth, plus all the surrounding prophylactics. Like, it's not anybody big on the stage, on the average. Again, there's a bell curve. There are guys who are genetic freaks who might only need a few hundred mgs to really grow. And then there are guys on the other end of the curve who need even more than the average to grow. But most guys in the middle will find themselves somewhere in like the 2 to 5 total gram per week range for all of their anabolics combined. So, and that's where I find myself in a push-up phase. Previously, I was on a little over 1 gram of test and about 1,400 mast and then a little bit of NPP. So we had just shy of 3 grams of gear in me. And that worked great. We're going to change things a little bit this time around, working with a new coach. Some of my compounds will change. My dosing will be incremented up. We're not just going to jump right up and then hold that. We're going to move it up over the course of the push-up phase as needed, especially because I am a pretty good responder to test. My response ratio is a little bit over 6 times, meaning, let's just use even numbers here. If I took 1,000 milligrams of test at 1 gram, my test levels, my serum testosterone levels, would be about 6,000 nanograms per deciliter. It's a little more because I'm actually a little over 6, but that's roughly what it would be. So pretty good response for me. That's just what I know off of my blood work. And yeah, that's where we are. Obviously, going forward, starting next week, those PEDs are going to start escalating a little bit as we start pushing things up into the growth phase. But no need to do that just yet this week. This is just a maintenance week. And the good news is we can start doing that next week because my blood work looks fucking awesome. The best my blood work's ever looked. And I mean, I'm shocked because it looked like dog shit at the end of the 24-week push-up phase. And in just 7 short weeks, bringing it back to this point, or honestly, again, to the best point it's ever been, is awesome. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to hop through my blood work. I have that pulled up here on the screen, but I'm just going to put the numbers up here for you guys so that it's a little easier to read. We're going to start with my A1C. For me, the range that was on my test as the normal range is 4.7 to 5.6%. I am at 4.6%. So below the low end, which is awesome. I am ready to freaking grow. Estimated average glucose over that time, which is just an estimate that comes with that for me, is 85 milligrams per deciliter. So pretty good. I like to see my clients and myself come in at 90 or lower. If it starts to get to 90 and above 90, we start to maybe add some prophylactics in. We get to 90, let's say we have 500 milligrams of metformin in. and we start getting to like 92, 93, I might throw in like 500 milligrams of berberine on top of that to bring it back to maybe that mid to upper 80s range. And then when that stops working, we maybe escalate the metformin a little bit, and we play with those things. And then when things get really heavy, food volumes become high, growth hormone dose increases, so on and so forth. In that push-up phase, that off season, we'll start to implement things like Lantus or a Humalog insulin, whatever you generally tolerate better or works better for you in that instance. And I will do the same thing. I will implement insulin in the off season when needed. So moving on from that, my CBC, there's not a whole lot to note here other than looking at hematocrit to make sure that that is not too high. My range, the normal range on my test was 39.6 to 48.8%, and mine came at 48.4%. So on the high end of the normal range, but still acceptable considering, you know, again, PEDs or anabolics in general tend to really raise that. That's pretty good. I'm happy with that. It's a good result. My RBC distribution was high. Red blood cell count has increased with steroid use. We know this. So that's to be expected. Not a big deal there. Nothing crazy there. And then let's see. All of my metabolic panel came back just fine. Sodium, potassium, creatinine, glucose. Actually, my glucose came back at 67 when I had the test taken. And it was a little low. You know, the range is 70 to 99, I think. And I'm actually happy with that. I have no issues with it. I'm not like hypo. I don't feel like I have low blood glucose. And that's really good for me. It shows me that like I'm ready to start pushing food in. Outside of that, on this test, really not a whole lot of important markers. There's some stuff, but nothing's out of range. Everything else looks normal. So let me pull up the next one here. DHEA sulfates came in low end of, I shouldn't say low end, but right around the mid-normal range, 222.76 on a range of 34.5 to 568.9. I believe that's nanograms per deciliter there. Nothing to be concerned with there. Now this one is the important one of the important ones. They're all really important, but this is the most important in my mind, and it came back fucking awesome. My lipid values, so my cholesterol, my triglycerides, all that stuff came back great. To put it into perspective, at the end of my 25 week push-up phase, my HDL cholesterol was like 11. It's now 36, which is just under the low end of that acceptable normal range, which is perfect for being on anabolics. Anabolics are going to, you know, affect that a little bit. This is an awesome result. It is awesome after just 7 weeks to be that close to back to baseline. My LDL cholesterol, which, you know, you want it to be under 100, is 78, which is amazing. It was 126 or 128 prior to starting this diet phase, so we brought that down. My cholesterol to HDL ratio is 3.5, so it is in range. At the end of the bulk, it was a staggering 10.5. So we brought that down 7 points. That's a point per week of dieting. That's crazy. Yeah, everything else here looks good. Triglycerides 80, all normal stuff. And then let's see, I think I got 2 or 3 more to go through. My thyroid. My T3, my free T3 was on the high end of the normal range. My T4 free was on the low end of the normal range, and my TSH was just barely on the low end of the normal range. These are these are the difficult ones for me to balance because growth hormone can have an impact on thyroid function, and it can kind of cause these to get a little wacky. And I also have a little bit of thyroid disruption just naturally. That's how I am. It's just genetically. So I take thyroid replacement T4 year round because of that. At this point, and given these results, we may need to add in like a co-therapy, T3 and T4 rather than just T4. Currently, I'm just doing T4 monotherapy, so we might need to adjust that, but everything is still technically within range, looks pretty good. And now, the one you guys have been waiting for, testosterone, total. I am on 500 milligrams of test. My total testosterone, 3,200 nanograms per deciliter on the nose. So that is an awesome result. Like I said, a little bit over a 6 times multiplier there on my dose to effective serum levels ratio. So that is just great to look at and see. I'm really happy with that. I actually switched from test E to test C recently because my test E was giving me just a little bit of pain after every injection. I've now switched, completely painless, awesome. So super happy with that. So that's the Physique, that's the Bloodwork, that's the PED load, and now the timeline. So my timeline I've mentioned it a couple times. We're coming off of about 7 weeks of dieting. We're doing a week of a holding period here, just a maintenance where the body's, we're pulling the clen out, pulling the fat burners, we're letting the body kind of return to baseline and bringing a little tiny bit of food back in, like 200 or 300 calories per day from that last week of the diet. And the next week, we're going to start to push things back up again. Now, when we start pushing things back up, that will probably continue for anywhere between 20 and 30 weeks. It really depends on how my body responds to that. We were able to do a really short diet phase because I lost the weight super quickly. If that's any indicator of how lean I can stay going forward, then hopefully we're going to be able to extend that growth phase closer to the 30-week mark and really push as much size as possible. But the second we start seeing health markers, body composition, fatigue, all those things get a little out of whack, then we'll end up pulling back. So historically, my previous push phase was about 24 weeks long. It really started to have some issues around 22 weeks, but it was cut at 24. Doing things the way I am now with my new coach, Neto, with J3U coaching, I think that we will be in a better place to extend that and again, push probably for like 30 weeks, hopefully. It also depends on how aggressive we need to be to really get my body to respond and add the size I need to add. So that's kind of the tentative timeline. And a general rule of thumb that I always adhere to with my clientele, it's not something you can apply to everybody, but it's a good starting point. Everybody's different. For every month you spend gaining, you'll need about a week of pulling back and dieting to be able to remove that extra weight that you put on, the extra fat you put on during that push-up phase. Now, that's not to say, you're going to gain and then do 6 weeks of dieting and hop into a competition. This is only relevant if you're doing a push-up phase, a little diet phase, and then going into another push-up phase, which is currently what we're doing. Probably for the next 2 years, that's all we're going to be doing. Push up, a little diet, push up, a little diet, so on and so forth. And that's kind of how it looks. Now, speaking of diet, to get into the diet point, we'll start with my training days. And let me pull this up here. I'm going to put it on the screen here as well for you. So my training day currently looks like this. This is current. This is just in that maintenance phase. We are currently eating, or I am currently eating, about 3,000 calories per day with 240 grams of protein, 390 grams of carbs, and roughly 50 grams of fat. I break down my training and rest days separately, but per day, I also eat only 5 meals. I know the kind of standard for bodybuilding is 6. For me, I find that 6 meals doesn't give me enough time to digest my food in between meals, and I end up, by the end of the day, being real bloated, feeling like, food fatigued, slow, kind of just shitty, because I have all that little bit, like let's say 10% of every meal stacks up, and then I have just this residual food that needs to digest from the previous meal. And in off season, it gets even worse because I'm eating a lot more food. In a diet, it doesn't matter. I could probably do 6 meals just fine, but we just keep it at 5 for me because that's what I prefer. I'll usually wake up around 5:30, 6 a.m., and I won't have my first meal until about 9:30 a.m. And then I have another one at 11:30. I'll go to the gym around 12:30, where I have just an intro workout drink there. And then I will do a post-workout meal around 3 o'clock, my next meal around 5:30 or 6, and then my final meal around 8:30. That's roughly how my timeline looks. There's 30 minutes here and there sometimes depending on the day or what I have going on. But that's what works for me. That kind of condensing it towards that later part of the day tends to work pretty well for 5 meals there. I'm not going to break down every meal individually in this video. I'll do that in a separate video, especially as the off season starts. When I start to go into my push-up phase, I'm going to do a full day of eating video to kind of start where I'm at, break down my meals, show you guys what I'm eating. But it is very clean. As of right now, you know, it's oats, fruit, rice, and meat, and yogurt. That's literally it. And I love it. I've been doing that for a long time now, and I will never get tired of it. But that's the training day. For my rest day, again, we do the same thing as far as 5 meals, but we don't have the intra workout shake in there, okay? And that day looks like this. 2,700 calories, about 245 grams of protein, 307-ish grams of carbs, and about 54 grams of fat, okay? Again, these days have been raised 200 or 300 calories each from last week, which was my last week at the diet. And that was pretty brutal. Not too bad. I've gone way lower before. In fact, this is the highest I've ever had my food while seeing the crazy weight loss results that I saw during this diet phase. So really excited about that. My cardio is currently, to complement this, 25 minutes of low intensity cardio. I prefer the elliptical 5 times per week. That's it. And then one day, 15 minutes of high intensity cardio. I still do the elliptical. All out intensity for 30 seconds, and then 30 seconds of rest, just kind of moderate intensity. Repeat for 15 rounds. So I have one day that's a cardio off day. That is Mondays. I do that because Monday is my mixed leg day. Mostly hamstring focused, but that's the only day I really heavily work quads, and obviously that's very fatiguing. So I don't do cardio on that day, and I just opt to get my steps in. And my step target for every day is 6,000 to 8,000. I typically come in at 8,000 to 9,000, a little bit higher than that, just naturally. But 6,000 to 8,000 is my current goal per day. That does not include cardio. So my morning cardio might add 2,500 steps. We just subtract that from the total. So I'm looking at about 10,500 steps per day is what I need, including cardio, to get my step count. And that's currently where I'm at. Training wise, we're really focusing on bringing up hamstrings and my whole back. Really, my whole posterior chain needs to come up. So training Monday, I have a mixed leg day. It's hamstring focused. It's still mixed, but it has a hamstring focus. Tuesday, which is what I did today, is my chest focused push day. So I do chest, shoulders, and tris on that day. Wednesday is going to be a pull day. So back, bicep, and a little bit of rear delt. Thursday is my off day. Friday, I do my hamstring focused leg day, which is mostly hamstring, like one quad exercise. And then Saturday is my shoulder and back day. We start with 2 shoulder exercises and then we move into more back. So a lot of posterior chain work and leg work. And that is predominantly what we're focused on. Really excited to see that come up because that's just been my weak point for a long time. But everything is clicking right now. Everything feels good. Super excited to get out to Vegas here in a few months because I am going to be training at Torture Gym. Insanely excited for that. Really, really happy to be able to go into an environment that's kind of conducive to everything that I want to do. And yeah, I'm going to be putting out some more regular content like this, guys. Every time I get blood work done, I'm going to do a blood work review. I'll do my PED dosage reviews when I get my blood work in. So about every 12 weeks, 10 to 12, we'll be seeing one of those videos. I'm going to start getting some training videos in for you guys so you can check those out. Kind of see how I train, some of the nuances to it. And honestly, it's good for me too to just watch my stuff back. And we'll also get into some other videos, maybe discussing the diet side of things. I'll do some full day of eating videos. And yeah, looking forward to getting back into it. So take it easy, guys, and I will see you next time.